We'll get started in a minute. We're just waiting for a few other people to log in. All right, we're going to get started. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today for our track changes with custom status and Bluebeam tips and tricks webinar. To start with, I have a couple of updates. Because this is a public presentation, we will have all mics muted. If you look at your go-to control panel, you will see a question box and a chat box. If you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to enter either of those boxes. We will get to them at the end of the presentation. We are Zentech Consultants, a technology consulting firm providing innovative technology solutions to the Canadian CAD/BIM construction marketplaces. Our focus is to improve efficiencies, which in turn leads to increased productivity. I'm Steve Fahey. I'm based in Halifax. I manage our Canadian operations. I invite you to visit our website to learn more about our company and our offerings. Also, don't forget to follow Zentech Consultants CA on LinkedIn to stay up to date on all of our upcoming webinars. Happy to announce that we recently released our Zen Estimate Steel for metric. It is still available in Imperial as well, but we are happy to have the metric version available for our Canadian clients. Zen Estimate is your fast, accurate, and consistent QTO tool for Bluebeam. We also just released 2 new versions of our Zentech Revu tools, one for concrete and one for general contractors. To learn more about our Zen Estimate or our Zentech Revu tools, please visit our website or contact me. Pleased to have Jim Coppinger join me today. Jim is a founding partner of Zentech Consultants. He has an excess of 30 years experience implementing and supporting technology in the CAD/BIM construction field. He has published multiple articles and has been a guest speaker at Autodesk University on such topics as Civil 3D and document management. At this time, I'll hand the presentation over to Jim to show you Bluebeam.
All right, Stephen, thank you very much. And I don't know that it was necessary for you to point out to everybody exactly how old I am. Tell them I've been doing this for 30 years, but I appreciate it just the same. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for being here. Like Steve said, I am Jim Coppinger. And today I want to talk to you guys about what I think is really an underutilized tool inside of Bluebeam Revu. And it's the concept of statuses, right? And statuses, generally speaking, when you go into Bluebeam, if you go down to your markups list, right, and you can turn on under the markups list columns, right, you just want to enable your status column. Right, now, I understand why for a lot of people this doesn't really seem at first glance like it's something that's going to be really important to them, but I think it's something that literally everybody should be using. So what I'm going to do here, just to show you what I mean with statuses, I'm going to go over to my tool chest here. I'm just going to use one of our Zentech Revu tools. And let's see, I'll just throw in a finish here. So I'm going to do a floor finish. Right, and I'm just going to kind of rough it in here in this interior room here, just kind of putting an area, not getting too particular with it here today. Good enough. All right, onto the screen, right? Just something that we can see. So I've got a tool, I've got a markup of some kind sitting here. Now, in terms of statuses, I think the reason why people don't use them as much as they should is when you go in and look at them the first time, they look like they are a punch list only type of tool. So in other words, there are 2 ways I can activate my statuses. I can click on an object, right click on it, and then go to set status. And you see that my status controls here are accepted, rejected, canceled, completed, really, geared around a punch list item. The same thing, I can do it down here in the markups list. If I double click into the status column, I can set my status to any of these. Now I get that, right? People look at that and go, well, I don't really do a lot of punch work. I don't really need it, so I'm not going to worry about it. So they just go in, turn off the status column, and they never look back. Here's the thing. If you notice up here, on the top right of the status column, we've got this control where we can actually go in and we can manage the status. And you see that what we can do is we can build our own list. These are the out of the box ones. They're really not meant as a kind of a be all end all for what you can do with status. They're an example to show you how to work them and how to build them. The idea behind status is that you can build your own custom workflows. And that's really what a status is all about. When we're dealing with any kind of an object inside of Bluebeam Revu, it corresponds to a real world item, right? Whether it's floor tile or carpet or casework or molding or underground piping or electrical wire, whatever it is we're drafting and putting into Bluebeam, we have to be able to do one of two things. We either have to track where that is in the real world and what's going on with it, or we have to track the workflow in terms of reviews and approvals and submittals and so on. Right? And most of us spend an inordinate amount of time doing that manually, either with Excel spreadsheets or via emails or creating extensive lists. And Bluebeam integrates the entire process. And best of all, it lets you go in and create exactly the workflow or workflows, because you can create as many of these as you need. Right? So if you want to create one workflow for your field supers and another one for your project managers and another for your estimators and another for your senior management guys, not a problem. You can easily do that. And that's what I want to show you how to do today. So I'm going to just turn off the built-in one. And what we're going to do is we're going to add our own. I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to add our own list, and I'll just call it for today. We'll just call it the Zentech CA example. Okay, we'll just use that as a name. And you see that right now I have no states. And that's where I'm going to come over here and I'm going to use this add button. And I'm going to start going in and I'm going to kind of take through an imaginary workflow process for some markups. Right? So if I go in and I add this floor finish type that I put up here, this kind of pink outlined area, I put that in, but maybe I'm not allowed to order and approve that. It's got to go through my boss first, right? So he's got to review it and approve it. So what I'm going to do is when I'm done, I want a state that says this is ready for review, okay? So that my boss can go in here, right, and he can, look at it and tell me whether or not that's good. So I'm going to set it to a state of ready for review. So when my boss goes in, they're going to know which items I'm done with and which ones I'm still working on. So when my boss goes in to look at this, one of two things can happen, right? My boss can approve, or I'll add another state. What happens if he doesn't approve, right? Well, then the boss rejects this. So I know what's going on there, right? Sometimes maybe we need some additional information. I'm going to add a state here for, out for RFI, right? Waiting to hear back from the engineer or the architect, right? Maybe the parts or the controls or something it's on back order. Right? Just adding these names and numbers for what I need. Maybe, I want to track, I want to know what's been, delivered to site. Right? I got to know when things are delivered onto my construction site. And then I also want to know when things have been completed. Okay. So I'm just kind of building a customized state that works for what I do, right? And here's where you got to apply just a little bit of imagination on how you guys work and what steps throughout the construction lifecycle you need to track, right? Because it really is easy. Once you've built that list, and I just say, okay, and you see this is the one that I have turned on. Now, when I go over and I go to any of these objects, so I go here inside of Bluebeam and here's my floor, I can just go in here and I can decide what I want to do with it. So I can just go in and say, hey, this is ready for the boss to review. Now, what I want to point out to you guys, you notice it doesn't just say ready for review. It's actually put my name, the date, and the time that I set this so that there is record keeping of who said or did what at any given time, right? We're providing accountability right inside the PDF on every single item that we're working with without having to send emails and phone calls and people say, well, I never said that. I never saw that email. That's not what happened. We can eliminate all that, right? To the point where even if I want to go in here and I want to cheat and I want to say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to overwrite that and say, hey, it was approved. If I go in here, right, and I can set the status, I'm going to say, I approve it. Notice that it doesn't overwrite the previous, it appends, right? So that there is a record of every single state change throughout the life of this entire job. And I can look at that and my boss can look at it and go, wait a minute, Jim, you approved this. You're not entitled to approve this, right? Steve's the boss. He's supposed to approve it. So then Steve can come in here, look at this and go, why was Jim approving this? And here's one of the nicest things about working with statuses is that now we can have a conversation about this item but we can have that conversation right here and have it permanently captured inside of Bluebeam, right? So that there's no lost emails or people saying, well, I don't remember that call or whatever. Steve can come in, look at what I did, right click on it, and he can reply to this. And he can just go in and say, you know, Jim, why you approve this, okay? There it is. And you see what it does? It shows up under the comments. Right, Jim, why'd you approve this? And then I can look at that and you see what it is. It's establishing it over here as like a threaded text, like right off your phone. So then you can just reply back. I can reply back to Steve and say, you know, you told me to because you're out next week. Okay. Oh, there you go. And I've got this, and then Steve can reply back and say, oh, okay, all good to go. Okay, no problems. Now, what's great about this is now part of that component, and you see that it can actually expand and collapse out. And I now have a permanent record of every change that enacted along the way. Okay, I can see the conversation about that, and then I can go in here and I can, you know, continue to set my statuses and say, hey, now it's got to go out, right? You know, for RFI. And you see now I've got another setup, but I've got the conversation still in place. I've got a permanent record of everything that's ever happened regarding my floor finish, which is absolutely amazing. It provides brilliant accountability for everything that we're doing here. And then, you know, because the status is another Bluebeam column, when we get into, you know, exporting out our CSV summaries, all of this information can be printed out and it can be sorted on and filtered on, which is an important item, right? What I'm going to do here, I'm going to delete that real quick, and I'm just going to put in, I'm just going to draw a couple of rectangles here for a couple of different floor finishes, right? I know I'm not really drawing anything worthwhile there, but, you know, one of the things that I do want to show you, right, is that I can go in here, and when I set the status on this one for ready for review, and this one, right, I'm going to set the status to ready for review. See, I got two of them. What's great about this is that now when your boss comes in, all you have to do is go in and turn on the Bluebeam filter and say, look, I just want to see all of the ones that are ready for review. And you see it grays out the other ones. Then as the boss goes in here and he says, oh, you know what? That one's good. I'm going to set my status here, right, to approve. Watch what happens. It's no longer part of the ready for review set. It's cleared out. So now the boss can go to this one. And what's great about Bluebeam, if you guys aren't aware, when you go and click on an item here in the markups list, see, it zooms you right to that item so you can review it and look at it on screen. And then he can look at this one and right click on it or double click on it. Either way works, and say that one I reject. So you see I've got 3 different statuses, and then all you have to do is just clear the filters. And you see the different statuses for those items and what I have going on, right? So you can see exactly what's happening on the ones that were ready for review, right? So now I'm going to show you one more thing here. And this one I'm going to show you just because I think it's really helpful when you're working in a large office environment, when you've got a lot of people who are looking at markups and changes and you need to review the statuses. It's very easy when I got 3 or 4 markups on the screen to change the statuses and look at them in this in kind of a text-based structure. A lot of times though, you may have dozens, maybe even hundreds of markups on a single page. And what is a really helpful thing is to be able to visually identify immediately what state things are in, right? And Bluebeam helps you do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the status set here, and I'm going to click on the Manage Status tool. And I'm going to go in here, and what I'm going to do is click on the Zentek CA, and I'm going to start to modify these. I just put a list of basic text states in here. I'm going to go in, I'm going to modify the first one and say, look, when things are ready for review, I want to change the color. Anything that's ready for review should be in that light orange salmon color. When the boss approves something, I'm going to modify that and say, I want it to turn nice bright green so I know it's good to go. Right? When he rejects something, I want it to become red so I know there's a problem, right? Red for stop. And we'll pick some other colors here. You know, if things go out for RFI, we're going to put them in as like purple, right? Anything that's on back order, right? We're going to make them yellow as kind of like a slow down. We got to wait for that, right? If it's been delivered to the site, right, I'm going to set the color. I don't know, let's pick, I don't know, the kind of violet color right there is fine. And then when something's completed, and this is one that people look for a lot and struggle with, when things are done, you kind of want to see that they were there, that they were handled, but you want it to be kind of grayed out and dropped to the background. What I'm going to do with that is I'm going to set the color to this to a really light gray, like a 20% gray. And I'm going to go a step further and show you that you can also even add text. So I'm just going to put in here, all done. This item is done. It's fully installed and inspected and complete. And I'm just going to say, okay. Now watch what happens when I go in and, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. If my mouse wants to work, there we go. I'm going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to change the status on this. I just want you to watch what happens as I change to the various statuses. So I'm done. I put in my floor finish, and now I'm ready for that to be reviewed by my boss. See, it immediately changes the color. Now I can go in and say, hey, the boss approved it. Green, rejected, red, out for RFI. You see all the standard colors. So when you open up these documents, you can see just by setting a company standard here and setting a list of tools that people can work with from a central location. Right? We can centralize these statuses out onto the network. Right? And then when it's completed, see that it's all fully complete and says all done. Right? And it's all grayed out, so it drops out to the background. I didn't change the hatch pattern, but that's the idea. With statuses, we have a permanent built-in methodology for ensuring that workflows and communication are being followed for every single item that we mark up within Bluebeam Revu, whether it's an estimate item, count item, doesn't matter. Right? Everything we do, we can track what's happening to it in the real world or within your own personal workflows, right? Things have to be scheduled for inspection, or if there's any kind of a conflict with them or a punch item or anything else that you have to deal with on your day-to-day operations. That's what statuses do, and I really do believe everybody should build their own custom statuses and be working with this on a daily basis. And there you go. That's your demo for how to use and work with statuses in Bluebeam Revu. All right, so with that, I'm going to switch you guys back over to Stephen. Steve, it's up to you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Just wanted to go here. We have one question, and just wanted to know, can I export a reply out for record?
Oh, yeah, no, that's actually a really good question. When you go in and you're in Bluebeam, when you do your exporting out to a CSV, there's a simple checkbox that says whether or not you want to include the conversations, the replies, so that they can be put out to the record as well. So yes, you absolutely can, but if you don't want to see those in your final, summary exports or whatever for record, you don't have to. Good question.
Excellent. All right, well, that brings us to the conclusion. I'd like to thank everybody who joined us today. We have our website and our contact information there. If you would like to learn anything further about how Zentek can help you, feel free to reach out, and we will also be emailing you a link of a recording of today's webinar. Once again, thank you, and look forward to seeing you at our future webinars. Have a great day.